Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. One of my favorite Showit features is that Showit integrates with WordPress for blogging, which confuses the heck out of people sometimes, but once you get it, and it's truly magical. People love WordPress for a reason. It's very powerful. There's a lot you can do with it, especially when it comes to plugins, which is what we're talking about today. So basically a plugin is an outside code, kind of like an app if you want to think about it that way, that adds new functionality to your website by plugging it into what you already have. So today I'm sharing 7 WordPress plugins that work amazing with your Showit website. And instead of focusing on like the super basic ones we all know about, like yes, you could do a plugin for your email marketing software or JetPack or a spam protector and some things like that. I'm going to share more obscure plugins that you may have never heard of, you may have never even thought about using before, you may have not even realized you needed or wanted until you hear about it in this episode. And there's a free and paid version for almost all the plugins I'll talk about. I actually use the free version of all of these. I do not pay for a single one. That's why you'll see in the title of this episode, all for $0. You can do all of these for free as additions to your site. So let's dive in and talk about WordPress plugins. All right, so I'm so pumped for this episode. And to kick us off, I actually have an announcement. I want to invite you, as you're listening to this episode, to click over to Instagram, link in the show notes, and enter a giveaway where I'm giving away a $500 gift card to my template shop on Instagram. If you're listening to this live, the giveaway is likely open, depending on the timing. It's closing on Friday, June 11th, but the link is in the show notes for this episode, or you can just go to @ElizabethMcCravey on Instagram. And entering is super easy. I've made this giveaway simple. Directions are all there, but on launch day for my new templates, I'm so excited for that. We're going to randomly pick a winner, and the winner will get a $500 gift card to use towards anything they want to in my template shop. The new templates, the old templates, whatever you want to do there. And on that note, the new templates are launching this Friday, which feels so insane to say as I'm recording this a bit in advance. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so soon. And I'm so excited for you guys to see the new templates. There are 2 of them. They are absolutely gorgeous, really extensive, really fun, and so many like fabulous custom feeling features to them that I think you guys are just going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool when you see them. So those launch June 11th, and then there's an awesome launch week bonus available through Friday, June 18th. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what that is real quick because I actually haven't shared it yet on the podcast. So the bonus is Profit Sheet. And you might be thinking, what is that, Elizabeth? And if you're a longtime podcast listener, you might kind of be like, okay, that sounds like something I might know that could be coming, because I've talked about my financial spreadsheet that I use to track my business finances for like ages on this show in a really early episode. I don't know which one it was, but I know that it's there because we get messages about it. But I mentioned the possibility of selling it. And so I get messages both on Instagram and over email a lot. That's like, hey, I listened to this episode. Is that for sale? I didn't see a link in the show notes. Like, when will that be for sale? Could I like buy it somehow? And now it is available. So during launch week only, you can get this absolutely for free with any template purchase. So this spreadsheet helps you track things like your money in and money out in your business to see your profits. So the income, expenses, profit margin, quarterly tax savings and payments, how much you're paying yourself as the CEO, comparing this year to last year, and so much more. It's pretty extensive. And if you're curious of like, want to read more about it and all that, all the information can be found at elizabethmccravey.com/profit. Showit. If you type that in, you'll get there. And yeah, I'm just so excited. So that's free during launch week with any template purchase. And I know it might seem like an interesting bonus because it's like, yeah, that doesn't really have to do with your website, but I love supporting you guys holistically in your business. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know that I'm passionate about so much more than just website design. And I don't believe that a website is the end all be all to a successful business at all. So like, as I come up with things to gift you guys for a launch, I'm thinking outside of just like, what can we do for your website, but like, what can we do for your whole business that's going to help it be so much better? And it's fun because think about it, like once you get a new website template, which I do believe will help you bring in more money in your business, now you have a really nice way to track it all. So yeah, get all that info at elizabethmccravy.com/profit sheet and head over to Instagram to enter the giveaway. Okay, now let me dive into these plugins, and I'm going to start with the first one that actually might seem a little basic. This is the most basic of all of them. This is the one you probably heard about the most. I have the least to say about this one, but I did want to include it because it's like oh my gosh, you have to have this as a plugin. And that is Yoast SEO. And if you're blogging with Showit, then you want this plugin, which if you're using WordPress with Showit, then like, yes, this makes sense. You're obviously blogging. If you're using WordPress, I should say that too. If you're using WordPress and you're just like a WordPress user, you're not a Showit user, all of these plugins apply to you too. These are just some that like in my years of using WordPress and Showit together, I've come to really love. So anyway, Yoast SEO, it allows you to customize the SEO settings on each blog post. And without it or without something similar, search engines are just going to decide what to use for like those search result pages based on the post contents. So with Yoast SEO, instead, you can define what you want the search engine, like what you want Google to use, and they may or not use it, but in most cases they will, and they will pull from that. So you're telling Google that like, hey, this is the most important thing to pull from this article. This is the most important image. This is the title we want you to use. All of that kind of stuff. And Yoast SEO is fun. It can kind of feel like a little game because it tells you like, you know, it needs to be a little longer. It needs to be a little shorter. This word you're using that you're saying is a keyword actually isn't even in the post, that sort of thing. So it's really helpful with helping you be strategic with SEO, even if you're not that knowledgeable about it. So anyway, I really love this plugin. And if you're an MShop customer, there is a video for you in the Showit Blueprint course. I believe it's in like the WordPress module where there's stuff about blogging, but there's a video on how to use it. And I like show you setting it up and like doing a blog post and all of that. So be sure to utilize that video. And now I should add too, most of the plugins I'm talking about here are available on advanced blog subscription with Showit only, which means that you're allowed to use like all the plugins WordPress has to offer. I'm not going to like specify on each plugin if it's available for advanced blog or basic, because that is something that changes. And I want this episode to be something you can listen to like a year into the future and still get the same results from it, the same information. So I'm going to link to an article from Showit where they're telling you like what plugins are available on the basic. And most of these though, at least right now, are only available with advanced. Yoast SEO though, to start, is one that's available on basic. And the one I'm about to share next is only on advanced right now. So anyway, just a little clarification there. Okay, the second one, Pretty Links. So this is probably my most used plugin technically. I love it. I have been using this one since back when I was like a WordPress user actually. I was on WordPress. I designed on WordPress before switching to Showit, and I had this plugin even back then. And basically it allows you to create a short link at your domain for any link you want. So this is different from websites like Bitly. I call it Bitly. I think that's the way to say it, but bit.ly, where like when you make a like short, or Tiny URL is another one, both of those. Like when you make a short link at it, it's like tiny URL /.com/whatever you want it to be. With Pretty Links, it's always at your domain name. So it can be any link, and we type in something at your domain name, and then it redirects this link. So one huge way that we use this in my business is that for every podcast episode, we create a pretty link. So the actual link is something longer and more SEO friendly that has like the post title in it and that sort of thing. Like that's what the actual URL is. But then we make a pretty link for the post that's like elizabethmccravey.com/whatever the post number is. And so when you type that in, it redirects. So like if you want to see this in action for this episode, for example, if you type in elizabethmccravey.com/121, just those numbers, real short and easy to remember, it'll redirect you to a longer URL that's the show notes for this episode. So that allows me as the business owner to know like, okay, if I need to find the show notes for episode 119, I can just go type that in and it'll like redirect. And also like, as I'm mentioning links verbally on something like a podcast, or if you're doing like an Instagram live or whatever it is, it's just helpful to be able to have really short links that are not SEO friendly that you can say verbally that are easy for people to remember and write out versus like the longer version. And if you want to see what I mean too, with another way I use this a lot is with affiliate links. So for just about any affiliate I work with, you can type in elizabethmccravey.com/whatever the name of that company is, and you'll get redirected to either a page within my website that has like info about that affiliate, or an actual landing page for the company where it's like my affiliate link for it. So if you want to see what I mean there, elizabethmccravey.com/Amazon will redirect you to my Amazon storefront, which is kind of different there, but that's easy for me to remember. Like that actual link is like amazon.com/a bunch of stuff. And so for me, I can just be like, okay, /Amazon, anytime I need to send someone to that storefront, really easy. Pretty links also comes in handy if you accidentally make a bad link and then you can't fix it. Or if your audience is commonly misspelling something when they type it in, you can like do a version of it that is the misspelling and redirect it to the correct link. I mean, there's so many ways you can do this. Again, it's a free plugin up until like a really high amount of pretty links. I'm on the free version and have never had to like consider paying yet. And seriously, it's an awesome plugin. So that's second one, pretty links. All right, number 3, this one is a longer name. So it's WP, Content Copy Protection and No Right Click. That is the full name of it. Again, I'm going to link to all these in the show notes if you need to like access them that way just by clicking to go to the plugin page. But this one is a huge one, and I currently do not have it activated on my website at the time I'm recording this, which I'll explain why shortly. So I don't have like an example for you to go to my website and see this in action. Maybe I'll activate it though for the purpose of like when this airs. But basically what this does is any blog post, it makes it to where no one can select any of the text to copy it, and no one can download any images from your website on the blog pages and save them. So when someone tries to select text, like you know how we're like reading and we're like selecting and highlighting the text, it makes it to where you literally can't do that. Like it just doesn't work. So I've turned this on sometimes and then turned it off others. I first started using this almost like a year ago to date, actually, when I found out that there were these companies in other countries were ripping off my blog posts and selling them to people as original content. So I found that like all these blog pieces I wrote, like specifically for this podcast, something like literally like what I'm doing right now that will be turned into a blog, was for sale on all these foreign websites. And then people were using them. And so then I found all these people that I'm like, hey, you stole my blog post. And they're like, actually, I bought it from this company. And yeah, and so I've had issues with people plagiarizing my content for a really long time, and it's always getting worse. And so that seemed like a great solution to it. So it doesn't make it impossible for people to steal from you, but it makes it a lot harder because the person stealing is going to have to read your words and retype them, which you'd be shocked by how many people still do that. I ran my website through Copyscape the other day, and even like thinking about how long I've had this plugin on at times, and I have a blocker too on some of my Showit pages through using code there, but like people will do that on pages that you can't like select. People just write it out. So anyway, kind of crazy. So it doesn't protect everything, but because people can still type it, but it does help. But here's when it doesn't feel like a win. When you want to copy and paste your own stuff, that's one way, which I like to do all the time. I'll reference my old content for things, and it's tough to like I can't go /121 for my podcast and like copy a little blurb I wrote about one of these plugins. You know, it's like that kind of stinks. So that's one way it can not be as fun. And then the other way is when your blog readers or podcast listeners want to copy and paste something for their own note taking and can't. So Whenever when I first activated this plugin, I had a few of you guys like message me about this and were like, hey, I'm on your blog. I'm trying to like copy and paste something for my notes. Cause some of you guys listen to this podcast with like note taking, which is, I think is so fun and so cool. But like you were not able to like copy and paste the notes because of this blocker. So we removed it for a while because of that. And again, like I said, right now, at least as I'm recording this, it's removed. But again, we have it on sometimes and not others. And I have talked to an SEO expert about this because I've wondered, does this type of plugin, does this type of code on like a Showit page affect your SEO ranking? And I was told it does not, because it doesn't affect Google's ability to crawl your site. So Google can still read everything and select everything. We're just blocking other people from doing that. So it shouldn't affect your SEO. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. All right, next up is Beaver Builder. So Beaver Builder is a post and page builder for WordPress. It's similar to things like Elementor and Divi that might be used as like the backend for entire website design. If you buy a WordPress theme, for example, you might be buying like a Divi theme or Elementor theme or whatever. So what I love about Beaver Builder though, it's similar to those, right? But it's drag and drop editor and it works great for blog posts specifically. So as a Showit user, I don't use this for pages on my site because I have Showit for that. But within a blog post, it allows you to edit the post and see things in the way they actually look. And you can drag and drop images to be side by side, change up the colors, add a heading, and change like the width of things like really, really easily. So it's simple and it's really minimal too, I would say, compared to things like Elementor. So I've been using this for blogging for years. Again, going back to like my WordPress days, ever since I've been on Showit, I've been using it. And I will say I was reluctant to put this one into the episode because it recently stopped working briefly with Showit for like about 2 weeks. It like just quit working. And it appears to be working again. So like when I first was outlining this episode, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to include Beaver Builder, even though that's been like honestly probably my favorite WordPress plugin of all. But now that it is working again, I am including it. However, just know that if you're listening to this years later, it could not be compatible with Showit. If you're a WordPress user just all the way around, then it's definitely compatible. But I'm hoping it stays compatible though, and that the issue is just a glitch that was happening for a few weeks. Showit was doing all kinds of really great internal like software updates. So our guess, and after talking to Beaver Builder's support, was that had to do with it. So anyway, we hope that's why the glitch was there and that it'll stay, but I'll update the show notes for this if Beaver Builder does change there. But I will say it's probably my favorite WordPress plugin of all. Okay, now number 5, Yoast Duplicate Post. So that is the name of it. And this is by the makers of Yoast SEO. And it's awesome because it allows you to clone an existing blog post or blog draft and start a new post from it. So that might sound really simple, but without this plugin or another similar one, I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, you can't do this within WordPress. So what we use it for, we love it because we have a standard blog post draft. It's always just a draft, and it's called something to the effect of like podcast template, something like that. And we use it for podcast show notes. So that draft has it all set up where it's like, here's where the podcast players goes. Here's where it says, listen to this episode. Here's where like the image for Pinterest is going to go at the bottom, all of that kind of stuff. So we have it set up. And all we have to do is every time there's a new episode, we clone that draft using this plugin, because again, it's just integrated into your site. So now that this plugin exists, there's just a clone button when you're editing the post. And so we clone it as a new draft for each episode. And it really saves time because you're not having to reinvent the wheel every time you go to do a post. So if you have a standard format you use for any of your blog posts, like maybe you're a podcaster too, maybe it's just that like every time you do, you're a photographer and every time you do a wedding and share about it, like you want to use the same format, like that's awesome. You can do this, have a really nice draft of it, save it, and then clone it every time you're ready to blog. So it's a huge time saver. It helps you like create consistency on your blog. So that one again is called Yoast Duplicate Post. Okay, number 6, we're nearing the end here. So I have 2 more left for you. So this one is called Reading Time WP. Short for WordPress. So this is a really fun one. It's really simple, but what it does is at the top of every post, so like right under where the post title is and like any other information you have, like the date and whatnot, it will say reading time : blank minute. So reading time is 8 minutes or whatever it is. So it's estimating the time to read that piece of content based on the blog length. And there's a lot of interesting ways you can customize this that I won't get into, but I use this on my site and I put it on some client sites too who are like active bloggers or podcasters. And we see this on bigger websites, right? All the time. Like when you're reading an article of sorts, you'll see that it tells you, okay, like the reading time is this long or whatever. And I think it's a fun one if you want the reader to be able to get a gauge for the length of the content before they really get going. And once you download this plugin or add it rather from like the plugin search area in WordPress, you'll see that there's a lot of customizations you can do to it. I honestly, I can't remember exactly, but I don't think I did any customizations. We have like a pretty minimal version set up. But again, I think it's cool. It's just a fun one. It's free, something extra to like add to your site. That's pretty cool. Okay, number 7, the final one. This one's called Better Search. And it's last but certainly not least. So their tagline for this plugin is supercharge your WordPress results. So this plugin replaces the default WordPress search functionality with a quote unquote better search that allows the results when someone searches your website to be more relevant based on like the title, post contents, all of that stuff in the default WordPress search engine. So basically with this plugin, the results that come up when someone searches on your website using the search functionality, right? Because within your Showit template, like at least with all my templates on the blog pages, we have like a search area. I'm like, what is the word for that? A search area where you would be able to, like a user, when your site's live, can type in there, I want to find stuff about WordPress plugins. Like if you're searching on my site to find this one, and then the results are going to show all the content that's relevant to that. So like this is going to allow when someone does that for the functionality to be more relevant than the typical search. So a cool thing too about this plugin, you can fine tune the way it searches by adding more weight to the post title if you want to, or more weight to the post contents, depending on which one you want to be more relevant. And that might not seem like that big of a deal. There's also a lot of other customization you can do to it. But once you have a ton of blog content, it's really helpful for making sure that people can easily navigate your website. Because, right, you wrote a post 5 years ago that was amazing, and we want people to still be able to like search on that topic, and that post from 5 years ago being the most relevant thing for that to come up first, right? And I know on my site, because of this plugin, I do think what comes up when you search for things are more relevant compared to without it. So like I'm seeing, like I search a keyword, I'm like, yes, okay, as the author of this blog, I feel like that first post is the most relevant and that one's the second, and so on, because it really helps that search functionality. So that's number 7, better search. All right, so that is it, my friends, on the plugins. And there are more plugins than that. I limited myself to 7 here because I didn't want this episode to be insanely long. But seriously, I could go on and on. It was hard choosing just 7 favorites because I really love WordPress plugins. And again, that's an amazing thing about Showit, that you get to use things like better search. Like, that's so fun that you can do all these cool functionalities to your website using WordPress. So for MShop customers, be sure to check out the resources within the course to see more plugins and other recommendations for things like plugins and other resources. Same for Booked.Designer students. Y'all have a whole document with an insane amount of resources to help your business, everything from like podcasting and video equipment to Chrome extensions, all kinds of stuff. So be sure to check all of that out. And let me know if you liked this episode and would like more like this. I could totally do a part 2 with other plugins that did not make it onto this episode. And I want to remind you again, if you're listening live, don't forget to head over to Instagram to enter the MShop $500 gift card giveaway. I'm so excited about this. Entering is really easy. Just find me at Elizabeth McCravey and look for a post that says really blatantly on it, $500 gift card giveaway. And I'll link to the actual post too in the show notes here. But yeah, so go enter that, tag your friends, share it with someone who you know needs a new website, and stay tuned for this Friday, June 11th, when 2 new templates drop in the shop and that amazing profit sheet bonus. I'm so excited to get to share with you all. So yeah, it's fun times over here. And again, I really hope you enjoyed this episode and that you will utilize some of these plugins, and let me know which ones you add and which ones you become obsessed with like I am. Okay, I'll talk to you next week with a new episode. Thank you for listening to the podcast this week, friend. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you about something. I would encourage you to check out my website template shop. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find Showit website templates, and they are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you book more clients and customers. Maybe your current website is really boring. I don't know, maybe it is, and maybe you don't want to hurt its feelings, but you know it's true. And your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers. And that's what these website templates do on MShop. These are pre-made website templates built for the Showit platform, where you can plug and play your content into the template with ease and then get started with a website that is made to actually make you money. Isn't that what we all want, right? So go shop the templates at elizabethmccravey.com/shop. That link is also in the show notes. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate it if you left a rating and review for the show on Apple Podcasts, or even just share it with a friend. It's a great way to support the show and then give us your feedback. So thanks so much for listening.